Hey guys, welcome back to FPL Fran. Today's video is going to be my Game Week 32 team selection. I will be going for the free hit, but it's worth looking at my Game Week 31 team because it will be the same team as I look ahead towards the Game Week 33 deadline. I did go for that hit for Trent after all. It was something that I suggested in my transfer plan video right after the Game Week 29 deadline. So I'm very happy that I went for that move. And Kepa, of course, was actually a hero in this team because Steele was someone that I thought was going to be starting for me for this triple Brighton setup. And I didn't really expect Chelsea to do well. Now, looking back at the game, of course, I think Steele was going to do well. Inevitably, it was just that Chelsea actually scored a deflected goal, so that was a bit fortunate on Chelsea's part to actually be able to score there. They did look okay in the second leg versus Real Madrid for the first 45-60 minutes, but of course this Chelsea team, it clearly lacks the ability to, first of all, finish, but in other matches to create goals. That's been a huge problem point for them. Botman and Trippier disappointing, but Watkins was incredible. Now, Watkins is owned by a lot of managers, so it didn't feel like a fantastic super haul that really benefited our team, but to actually own Watkins is massive, although we did not own someone like Solanke, who, of course, someone like FPL Harry did, who's doing incredibly this season. So shout outs to him, of course, the best content creator right now in this season. As far as Fernandes, Grealish, McAllister, Matoma, I was super excited to actually see Fernandes play versus Nottingham Forest. I thought he had ample opportunities to do well, but Keylor Navas really stopped effectively all of them, including Anthony Martial as well, who actually sort of missed the opportunity to score from what would have been a Bruno assist. Same with Jadon Sancho a couple of times, but I don't think we have many expectations for Sancho, if we're being honest. As far as Grealish, quite fortunate to also get his handball. McAllister, Matoma a little bit more quiet in those games. And McAllister, one of the issues as well is with the injury to Veltman, we might see him drop further back in the future. So he might actually be a transfer out sooner than later. We'll see what happens and see how the underlying numbers change for McAllister and whether his role will see him remain in the 10 spot or whether he will be creative enough from the 6th position to be worth keeping in our teams for 34. As far as Kane, Haaland, Watkins, I mean, the odd one out, of course, is just going to be Kane. We kept him for this Bournemouth fixture, and Salah owners have been rioting absolutely. So that has been a little bit regretful, and hoping, of course, that Kane will do well in 33. Otherwise, I could even see myself going for a -4 to Salah in 33. But that's going to be my review for this week, and let's actually just look towards my free hit team selection, the defenders. So the defenders I'm actually going to go for are Gabriel, Trippier, and Trent, and this will already sort of send some alarm bells ringing in your head now as to why I've not gone for triple Arsenal attack. So my simple answer is really this. I did not want to go in the end for a double up of Trent and Robertson because I don't see the upside of Robertson as much as I see the upside for Gakpo. Of course, that's a little bit of a spoiler for my midfield, but Arsenal have fantastic clean sheet odds this week. For some models, you can actually see that it's around 55 to 58%. Liverpool also closely there. But with Liverpool, you also have some great attacking ceiling. And what's nice about someone like Salah and Gakpo is you probably know that they're going to start. Whereas with Jota and Nunez, that's probably less likely to be the case, even though Jurgen Klopp actually mentioned that he was really happy with the pressing in the previous game versus Leeds. And of course, he's played the same starting XI the last 2 games going. So maybe that actually suggests that Jota will start. But we have a lot of great forward options this week. And that was something I talked about when I was creating my free hit draft strategy video. As far as Trippier and Johnstone, these are players that are locks for me just because I'm not going to be going for Kane. So I am going to be betting towards a kind of Newcastle clean sheet in the circumstance. And of course, Crystal Palace having great defensive odds means that Johnstone finds his way into my team, but also that I'll have Anderson in my team as well. As far as the midfield, though, you can see I've gone for Martinelli, Saka, and Salah, and that will tell you, of course, that I've not gone for Jesus, and I'll explain my reasoning here. I think actually for this draft, this whole time that I've been thinking about Martinelli versus Jesus in those positions, but in the end, it actually became more of a question between Gabriel and Jesus. The reason why is because previously I wasn't so interested in Gakpo until I saw him start once again in the Nottingham Forest, in the Leeds game, sorry. And looking ahead towards Nottingham Forest, I do expect Gakpo to start, so therefore he will start in my team. And because I've added Gakpo to my team, I needed a third defender. And what that has created circumstantially is that many of the third defenders this week are a little bit boring to me. The Crystal Palace ones, I don't really want to double up with Crystal Palace. They're the 3rd best team for clean sheets, but none of the defenders really appeal. And of course, I didn't really want to go for any of the other keeper options because Pope for me is playing another matchup that's quite tough. A double up of Newcastle feels like it's very similar to some of the teams that people have this week. Alex Moreno was the one differential, or even Castagna was going to be one of them as well, who I thought could fit in that 3rd defender spot, but I still don't like them because I think Tony has exceptionally great chances to score versus Aston Villa. Villa's defensive numbers away from home have been much worse than their home numbers, so that's one concern. And Tony simply has been still getting a fantastic amount of opportunities. So if I know Tony will play and he won't be suspended, Tony's more than likely going to find his way to my team. And for that reason, I didn't really want to pick an Aston Villa defender. And I think Moreno actually has the highest upside as any of the defenders outside of Robertson, when we exclude, let's say, Trent, for example, and Trippier. For expected goal involvement per 90, Moreno is something like 0.22 expected assists, which is actually the same as Robertson. So he has shown to be an exceptional player, and he's played at least 1,000 minutes in the Premier League so far, or around 950. So that's for me enough sample size to say those numbers are actually very consistent and very solid. However, as I said, Gabriel, great chance of actually goal scoring this week. Southampton, a little bit of a weaker team when it comes to corners conceded, and I think Arsenal do have an opportunity to do that because Arsenal are one of the top teams in actually being able to accumulate corners, and Gabriel, of course, he is the set piece threat there. Martinelli, as I said, going back to him, the reason why I'm going for him is because Martinelli for me is that option who has the higher goal scoring odds compared to someone like Odegaard. Now, I think Odegaard will actually play more minutes in the match, but Martinelli, I just wanted to back someone with a little bit more goal scoring upside this week. So that's why I've gone for Martinelli, even though Odegaard actually has much better chances of creating. And of course, that's something we've seen all season. And that also leads to bonus points. However, Martinelli is more than capable himself of getting bonus points. We've seen that in the last few weeks and just overall in the course of the season. As far as Salah, he's an absolute lock for me. Nothing really to discuss. Virgil van Dijk, of course, is one of those Liverpool options that a lot of people have been thinking about as well, just to actually target the fact that Nottingham Forest are also another very poor set-piece team. But I really like the upside of going for Gakpo instead. I do think that this is a great opportunity for Gakpo to do well. And the fact that he's at midfield also means that hopefully he'll benefit from a Liverpool clean sheet too. As far as the forwards, though, if we go towards the forwards and showing the captaincy, you can see that the captaincy and the vice-captaincy have been put on Liverpool players. I'm very happy to go for someone like Salah this week, and I'm very happy to go for Trent as my vice captain. I just think that that's the easiest fixture here. We've also seen a little bit of slip-ups from this Arsenal team. The clean sheet odds for most aggregators seem to be favoring this Liverpool team, and of course Trent's attacking upside is so incredible in this midfield position. There were minutes, of course, for example, in the first 25 to 35 minutes of the Leeds game, where a lot of people thought that Trent was playing a very subdued position. But ultimately, we've seen Trent almost break his records for amount of touches within that game versus Leeds. And Leeds were playing very, very defensive. I don't see Nottingham Forest doing anything different. They played a very similar game at Old Trafford. Not at Old Trafford, sorry, but actually at home. And that makes it even worse when they're actually coming towards Anfield. I think they're just going to really suffer under the knife of Liverpool. So that's going to be why I'm going for those two captaincies and vice captaincies. As far as my forwards, the one change, of course, is that I'm taking Jesus out of my draft compared to a lot of other managers who are actually very happy to go Jesus. But as I said, I really wanted to go for Gabriel here because the third defender wasn't strong enough. And so I'm going for a gamble in Isak and then going for Watkins and Tony. I couldn't really decide how the way the Watkins and Tony matchup would really go. Ultimately, of course, they're both goal scorers, and so it's not really like it's one attack versus one defense. It's just two attackers who can do well. I mean, look at the Brighton versus Brentford game as a key example for how well Tony can do, despite Brentford's or Brighton or the opposing team, for example, scoring 3 goals there. So I am quite excited for this matchup because I think that there are really low chances actually for both Aston Villa and Brentford to keep clean sheets. The gambling odds do support that as well. And of course, the talisman for both Aston Villa and Brentford are these two players respectively. So I actually like these picks. Why I didn't go for a 3-5-2 is simply because I don't really like Maddison or Eze too much. I really just want to back goal scorers here. These are also penalty takers, so that's a huge plus between Tony and Watkins. With Isak, it really depends whether he actually starts on the match and whether Wilson will actually come into the game. Because if Wilson comes into the game, that might take away penalties from Isak. But I do think Isak will start. I think he is part of what is Newcastle's best starting 11. And of course, we saw Isak with a similar rest to Gakpo previously when he had to rest versus West Ham. That was another midweek fixture, and I think now that you actually have almost 5 to 6 or even 7 days of rest for some of these players, I do think players like Gakpo and Isak will start. So the gamble for me is worthwhile, assuming that they play roughly 75 minutes of football. And they all have fantastic probabilities to do well. And that's why I'm going for this team. With a couple minutes punts, as I said, Arsenal will also have to rest ahead of the Man City game a little bit because there is a 5-day lag there. But Arsenal, of course, aren't involved in any other cup competition. So I think they have a little bit more flexibility in terms of being able to play their starting 11 very consistently. And that's something that we've seen from Arteta this season, where he actually plays that starting 11 non-stop. Of course, with exception to when, let's say, Nketiah was kind of taken out of the lineup, but also for injury-related reasons. So this is going to be my team for Game Week 32 in the free hit. I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you guys shortly.